Welcome to the Saturday Cadence podcast. I'm Blake Biscardi, and remember, the Saturday Cadence podcast is the heartbeat of college football.
Another week, another head coach has been fired. That continues the streak. Now it seems like every single Monday show, we have had a head coach fired for you. So we're going to break that down. Hugh Freeze is out at Auburn. They are finally making the move for the Tigers after a 4-5 start, 1-5 into the SEC. We're going to get into that, as well as a couple of names to keep an eye on here in the early going for the Auburn head coaching position, which is going to be a better job than many people think. We were live at Ohio State, Penn State, and Columbus. We're going to have thoughts there and some others around the country. Miami decided to play itself potentially out of college football playoff position, so we're going to get into the Hurricanes. A lot to get to on this episode of Saturday Cadence. Guys, thank you for tuning in. My name is Blake Biscardi, and I am your host. Like I said, we're going to open the show with Auburn and Hugh Freeze. The Tigers going down to Kentucky 10-3. Just an abysmal offensive performance. Not able to really get anything going there. Did not even have 250 yards of offense in the game, just the 3 points. And Auburn, this is a team, when you see them at 4-5, this team could easily be 7-2, 6-3, but no, they're 4-5. They've not had some bounces go their way, some calls go their way, some execution that they have just failed to do. Auburn in a really tough position as a program, but this job is not going to be a job where you're like, oh, Auburn hasn't been relevant for a while. That's not a good job. No, Auburn is a good job. And Hugh Freeze just couldn't fully get it going. We thought maybe this was going to be the year, some good portal additions, but just wasn't able to really get it going. You had Ashton Daniels and Jackson Arnold both split time at quarterback in the game. And the writing for Hugh Freeze has been on the wall. And now you're sitting there. This is an SEC job. This is a big name job. I said it before when Penn State moved off of James Franklin. Auburn moved off of Gus Malzahn, and the grass wasn't greener. Penn State has moved off of James Franklin, and the grass may not be greener. LSU is moving off of Brian Kelly. Florida off of Billy Napier. There's these schools out there who are moving off of these head coaches. Who is going to make the grass greener? That's the problem. Who are you as a program? What are you as a program? Where do you see yourself truthfully right now? Where do you see yourself going? Because right now, if you look across the sport, LSU doesn't have stability. So there's instability at LSU, at Florida, at Auburn, but there is stability at a place like Indiana and Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. And those teams may not have all won on Saturday, but that's the nature of the sport of college football right now. There is a lot of stability in Columbus. There's a lot of stability in Athens. They are standing on more stable ground in Tuscaloosa. There's stability in Eugene. Is there stability at Clemson? These are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. What is this new world of college football really like? Who are the programs that are going to remain at the top, or is it going to be a revolving door? What does it take to sustain greatness at the top of the sport in this era, in this NIL and transfer portal era? These are all the questions that have to be answered. Who's the right man for the job? There's a lot of head coaching positions available. Big ones. Big head coaching jobs are available. LSU, that job does not come open very often. Humongous opportunity. Florida, humongous opportunity. Penn State, humongous opportunity. Auburn, really good opportunity. That's 4 humongous jobs just right there. But if we're moving off of coaches who are winning 9-10 games, 8-9 games, who's going to hire you better? And that's the thing. So for Auburn, okay, Hugh Freeze is out. And maybe Lane Kiffin's not your guy there. Maybe James Franklin is your guy. Maybe you just kind of recycle one of these other head coaches who have been fired. It may not be the worst thing. They just may need a fresh start. That is possible. But for Auburn, do you look at a guy like John Sumrall from Tulane, ready to make a move? He has led a tremendous program for the Green Wave. They have been one of the hallmark playoff contenders for the Group of Five. Had a tough weekend this weekend, but John Summerall is a hot name, a well-respected coach in the industry by players, by other coaches and media alike. You have a guy, could you pull someone out of retirement, or maybe not so much retirement for this particular candidate, but could you get Jimbo Fisher back on a sideline? Like, these are the kinds of things. Is it Clark Lee from Vanderbilt? Is it Brent Key from Georgia Tech? Like, these are the kind of names that are going to get thrown around with this Auburn job. So who's Auburn going to be able to bring in? John Summerall. John Summerall, I think, would be a really good hire here for Auburn. I think this will be a great move for him. There's 3 SEC jobs open close to him. I think he's got to be considered heavily for one of them. Alex Golesh, he's another G5 guy who's going to get looked at by these jobs. They may not hire them, but they're going to get looked at, and they would be foolish not to look at Golesh and Summerall, both really, really good coaches at the G5 level who I think are ready to make that step up into the Power 5, potentially even a major job in the SEC. Like I said, we're going to continue on with the coaching carousel, but we were live in Columbus at Ohio State, Penn State. And my take in this game is going to be very interesting because how I really evaluated this game, I said it's going to go one of two ways. There's either going to be something left in that Penn State program, and they're going to have a lot of fight. They're going to cover, and you're going to see it. Or they're going to be completely dead in the water and just get rolled over. Oddly enough, both things happened, which I didn't think was going to be possible, but it was a tale of two halves. Both things did happen. And it was really interesting. I was standing there just watching warm-ups, and there was no juice on the Penn State side. They run out of the tunnel. You couldn't feel it. There was no energy there. The team was flat, and I was like, all right. Penn State gets the ball, pops a big run. Katron Allen goes for 26 yards on the first play. Didn't do much after that. For Ohio State, the spot that they were in, now it reminded me of parallels here. I'm not going to make a direct comparison because it's not. But just humor me in this take for a minute. Michigan's coming to Columbus last year, 3-touchdown underdog, no business in the game. There's one way they can beat Ohio State. Does that game happen? It did. Similar setup for Penn State coming in, 3-touchdown underdog. Not very many ways Penn State can win. They need a lot of things to go their way. Well, they got some things to go their way in the first half. The game was not close if you were watching these two teams together for what it was on the on-field product. The scoreboard told a different story than the on-field product. This game was not close in the first half, but it went to half at 17-14. To me, Penn State gets lucky on that turnover because forward progress should have been enforced. It should have never been a fumble. It was 17-7. Ohio State had a chance to go up 24-7, just put the dagger in to end the half. They fumbled. They put it on the ground. Penn State gets the ball back. Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, they do their thing. Short field, touchdown, 17-14. All of a sudden, Penn State has life. The stadium was just like, it was complete frustration, but the sideline for Penn State had some juice to it. And you're like, okay, maybe we have ourselves a ball game. But in the back of your mind, you're like, well, what I'm seeing is one team completely outplaying the other. How in the world is this a 3-point game? Weird things happen, though, in college football. Weird things happen in this rivalry game. We say it all the time. Things just happen in this Ohio State-Penn State game. They almost always look the same. Then the second half came. And my thought at halftime, I'm standing there and I'm reflecting. I'm like, okay. We hear about the conversations that happened in December last year after Ohio State lost to Michigan. Now, Ohio State didn't come out with a conservative game plan. They came out with a great scheme. They torched Jim Knowles' defense. So that's why I said it's not the exact same thing. Just humor my take here. All right. But you got hit in the mouth at 17-14. You put the ball on the turf, give up a short yardage touchdown. It's a 3-point game for no reason. How's Ohio State going to respond? To me, this was going to tell me if the changes that were made are actual changes or not. And to me, they were. Because Ohio State goes right down the field. And there's Carnell Tate, 57 yards. And then Carnell Tate, 45 yards. He had 2 huge catches in this game. Deep strike. First drive out. Okay, Ohio State gets another touchdown. Ohio State dominated this game. Penn State had 200 yards of total offense. And you're saying, okay, this is a 5-loss Penn State team. They've lost all their Big Ten games. You're beating a dead horse. It's still a top talent roster in the sport. But this game to me was more of, how's Ohio State going to handle this? Ryan Day's been preaching all year, it's about us. Okay, it has to be about you because you're only up by 3 at the half, outplaying your opponent. Are you going to get dragged into the mud again? Or are you going to stay focused and keep it about you, about your preparation, about your game plan, about your strengths, about controlling the game? And they did. To me, that's my biggest takeaway for Ohio State in this game. Sure. Were they 3 touchdown favorites and did they cover? Yeah. I'm okay that I'm wrong. Like I said, I'm not surprised by this outcome in the slightest. My pick of Penn State to cover was more of a respect to the program than it was anything else. I'm not surprised by this outcome. This is what should have happened, and it did. Ohio State did its job. But the point is, it is about us in that locker room for Ohio State. It's about them. The next litmus test about that, though, and I'm not saying there's going to be dog walk games against Purdue and UCLA and Rutgers. Is it still about you when you go play Michigan? That's the test for Ohio State. This is a good dry run. But that's the real litmus test for Ohio State. Can it still be about you, your preparation, your game plan, your scheme, your players, your coaches on your terms? That's the question against Michigan for Ohio State. In this game, though, for Ohio State, Julian Sayin had 3 incompletions. 2 of them were throwaways due to pressure, and one of them was a drop by Brandon Inniss. He was 20 of 23, 316 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had 3 beautiful deep balls, 1 to Jeremiah Smith, 2 to Carnell Tate. One of those went for a touchdown. Ohio State has 2 legitimate Heisman Trophy contenders in Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith, of which Ohio State launched campaigns for today, as we record this on Sunday. And then Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are 2 Biletnikoff favorites right now. Not to mention Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese. Then Sonny Styles, 5 of the potential best players in the sport on one team. That's how good this Ohio State team is. But again, it's that question. Is it going to be about them when you play Michigan for the Buckeyes? That's the big thing. So Ohio State, huge win over Penn State. They keep it rolling. They're 8-0. College football playoff rankings come out before you can get into another game. The college football playoff rankings are coming out on Tuesday. We will have a reaction to them. This is going to be interesting to see what the committee values, because there's lots of opinions out there that are justifying Texas A&M or Indiana to be the number 1 team in the country. And again, it doesn't really matter until you get into December. But how those 3 teams will be ranked, I think they should be ranked as they are in the AP poll: Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M. We will see if the committee agrees. They do have a new strength of schedule metric this year that they're going to use. So we will check that out on Tuesday night. Some teams have played themselves out of the playoff race in terms of, oh, you know what, this team is still going to get in, even if they don't reach the conference championship game. That's going to be Miami. Carson Beck threw for 274, 2 touchdowns. They had 2 more picks. So Miami takes a second loss. Where the committee has them on Tuesday is going to be very important. But also for Miami, they're going to need some help now. And they got some, because Vanderbilt lost to Texas and Georgia Tech lost to NC State, which, if you were listening on Thursday, we had that on the upset board. That was a tough spot for Georgia Tech. Spread was fishy. NC State wins the game by 12. So Miami gets the help that they need. Notre Dame, on the other hand, looks okay, beats Boston College by 15. There's a notion out there that says Notre Dame is going to get in this college football playoff at 10-2, and they're a lock for it. That notion has come from me. But now, will they be blocked by Miami? That's going to be one of the questions that the committee is going to have to answer to, because if you know Notre Dame's schedule, first 2 games were Miami and Texas A&M. Notre Dame lost those 2 by a combined 4 points. It's well documented on this show, and you hear it in all the college football places everywhere. All right? Notre Dame could be blocked by Miami, because you shouldn't ignore head-to-head. However, the committee reserves the right to say, we think that these 2 teams are trending in opposite directions. That was week 1 of the college football season. And Notre Dame is unequivocally better than Miami. That's the argument that Notre Dame is going to have to hope for, because I am not fully convinced that 10-2 Miami and 10-2 Notre Dame battling for a playoff at large bid. I'm not fully convinced that that's going to be a unanimous vote for Notre Dame to go in over Miami. Now, what I think, what my eyes tell me, what my football brain tells me, is Notre Dame is a better football team. But what the results and the evidence tell me is that Miami won the game. And why do we play the games if the results don't matter, whether it's week 1 or week 13? That's the conundrum that the committee is going to be in, because of how tight that this is going to be to end the season. Tennessee also lost, which that's a helpful thing for Miami when it comes to the at-large bids. We told you Tennessee, Oklahoma, that was going to be a de facto elimination game when it came to the SEC race and the college football playoffs. So that's where that's at with Miami. Carson Beck, disappointing over the last month after such a hot start. Disappointing. So Miami is not toast, but I'm not fully convinced that they can still get into the college football playoff. Meanwhile, you have teams like Ole Miss continuing to win. Georgia survived Florida. That one was a surprise to many. So Georgia survives the game against Florida. Again, Georgia's a team that I'm not fully buying stock in this year. I just don't love the defense. I don't love them in a big spot. They got bailed out against Auburn. They've just needed too many things to happen. Tennessee misses a field goal at the end of the game. Yeah, Georgia has a lot of talent and Georgia can win games. But my confidence level in Georgia doing that, it's not the same Georgia team that was here in 2021 and 2022 and 2023. It's a different Georgia team. And we have to recalibrate ourselves for that. We have to readjust ourselves for that. Just like I told you at the top of the show with Indiana and Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. You got to recalibrate for those teams being good. So it's another classic example here with Georgia. They are not this unbeatable team anymore. They are not invincible. Something to keep in mind. Indiana is a team that's looked invincible so far this year, just blowing the doors off Maryland. Indiana just puts up monster numbers. They have now scored 50-plus points, I believe, in 6 games this season, sitting at 9-0. So Indiana, One of the great stories with Kurt Cignetti of this season. They still have a bye week out in front of them. They are going to play Penn State this week. Then they have Wisconsin. Then they have a bye week. Then Purdue. If Indiana survives this week, they are pretty much a lock for the Big Ten championship, judging by the play of the other opponents left on the schedule. Penn State, the toughest, although the record says they're 3-5 and 0-5 in the Big Ten, probably have no demoralized shot. But this is why we play the games, because anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. Utah blew out Cincinnati and made a statement. Now, to me, when I see this, I look at it because the Big 12 and the ACC, the question since the preseason, how many teams can they get in to the field? Miami losing and Georgia Tech losing means, did that door open for a second, potentially third Big 12 team to be in the mix here with Texas Tech, BYU, and now Utah? It was going to be the winner of this game. I think we could be looking at a playoff that has two Big 12 teams. If there was three, man, I would be surprised at that. I do think that two is now in play for the Big 12 because that's a respectable win for Utah. We'll see how high that they can climb. They obviously need to keep winning. But I really, really respect that win over a good Cincinnati team. Utah 45-14. Meanwhile, you have a team like USC surviving Nebraska. Matt Rule, he's been tied to the Penn State job. He signs an extension. Again, I'm just going to just shoulder shrug it. I don't know how you continue to lose these one-score games so often, but this is the spot Nebraska's in, and USC, they have some life. They only have one loss in the conference. I mean, can USC backdoor to the college football playoff? This is what we were talking about last week. They're 6-2. They got Northwestern on Friday, Iowa, and Oregon. You're beating those two teams and sitting there at two losses at the end of the year with UCLA left on the schedule. You're going to have an argument. You will have an at-large argument. I mentioned Iowa. Iowa's going to have the same argument. They host Oregon this week. Iowa has to play USC and Oregon too. They're going to have an argument if they can win out. The Big Ten has a chance for 4. I think the lock is going to be 3 for them. The playoff picture is muddy, but the playoff picture is entertaining. It's not clear-cut yet. If this was a 4-team playoff, I mean, we've had the answer for a month. They just got to win out and make it happen. But this 12-team playoff, this is fun. You see your teams at the top, those top 4, they're probably all locks. Just where are they going to be seated? Will they get a bye? Will they play in their conference championship game? Will they win their conference championship game? This is fun. There's a lot of teams that are still in play. So we need to be keeping our eye on this college football playoff race when it comes to that cluster of Big Ten teams, USC, Iowa, and Washington. All 2-loss teams with a path to an at-large spot. Can they do their job and pull the upset? Next up, we're going to hit the AP poll. And again, this is going to be a shorter show because, we overcome adversity on the show all the time. Like I said, we're traveling. Also, we're dealing with a wisdom tooth issue. So we've got some medicine in the system right now. Shout out to ibuprofen. They are not sponsoring the show, but they are making it much easier for me to communicate with you guys without pain. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to roll with it. Okay. That just means a little bit shorter show tonight, but we'll have a fuller show for you on Thursday. Ohio State still sitting at number 1 in the AP poll. This is the last time we're going to go through the AP poll because the college football playoff rankings are going to come out Tuesday night from the selection committee. So for the final time this season, the AP poll is going to, in air quotes, matter. We've got the Buckeyes up top, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama still sitting as the top 4. Now, the top 7 were unchanged, so I'm going to just read off to you. Georgia at 5, Oregon, Ole Miss, and BYU sitting there at 8. So Georgia, Oregon, Ole Miss, that is 5 through 7. BYU slides up 2 spots. Texas Tech slides up 4. Notre Dame slides up 2. That rounds out the top 10. So you see these teams in position. As of today, Notre Dame would be in. As of today, Miami would not be in. And here's the thing. You now have Oklahoma, Virginia, and Texas sliding to 11 through 13. What's very interesting here is that Oklahoma and Texas both have the same record. They're ranked 2 slots from each other, 1 between. Both moved up 7 places in the rankings this week. And if I recall that head-to-head matchup correctly, Texas won the game. Why is Texas not ranked 11 and Oklahoma ranked 13? I don't know. But this is why we shake our head at the AP poll, because it doesn't make sense. Continuing on, Louisville. Here they come. They're sitting at 14. Could they be in play for the playoff out of the ACC? Vanderbilt dropped 6 spots after that loss to Texas, which they came all the way back from being completely left for dead in that ball game. This is the spot we thought for Texas. That 2-point conversion, too, unbelievable call. Unbelievable call, especially for those of us who had the Texas cover. So Georgia Tech sitting at 16 now. Utah jumps all the way to 17. Like I said, this is that extra Big 12 team that's going to be in play here. We have BYU at 8. We have Texas Tech at 9. We have Utah at 17. Then we look in the ACC, and as I see these teams now, we have Virginia at 12. We have Louisville at 14. Georgia Tech at 16. Miami at 18. These teams are around. These teams are in play. They have a path. Can they win out? Can they win the conference championship game? And how many from those conferences can get in? Utah 17, like I said, Miami at 18, Missouri 19, USC at 20. This is the positioning that they're going to be in. Now, I told you that cluster of Big Ten teams. I'm going to add one more team to that, Michigan. They're at number 21. They're going to have Ohio State coming to the shoe. They should be 9-2 going into that game. They win, they're in. I'm just telling you right now. Memphis at 22. Tennessee has not beaten a Power 4 team or anyone with a winning record, yet they are ranked with 3 losses. They are number 23. How they are ranked over Iowa beats me. I don't know. I expect that to be different from the selection committee on Tuesday night. Washington finally getting some respect, ranked 24th, and Cincinnati sitting at 25. So again, that's the top 25 from the selection committee, or from the AP poll. I expect the selection committee's rankings to look relatively similar at the top, but I do think that will be backfilled differently, and we will see a handful of more Big Ten teams in the mix. I think we're going to see some trades there. Pittsburgh, also a team that is sitting there ranked 28th right now. They have a path to the playoff as well if they can figure out a way to win out, because they do have a big game with Miami at the end of the season on November 29th. But that's the AP poll. Ohio State getting 54 of the first place votes, Indiana 11, A&M 1. I do think that's the right order. That's how it should stay. I believe that's how the selection committee is going to have it. What's going to be interesting is where these teams are ranked. Again, I know this is why we're watching the rankings. Like, of course, I get it. But how they're ranked in the first one is going to matter, because it's going to show you what this particular selection committee values. Okay? Every year we have this debate of what's going to be that criteria that they focus on. Where's going to be the value point for them? That's what we're going to find out on Tuesday, what they value. Because a world exists where Texas A&M, just because they think the SEC is better, is ranked number 1. Indiana has beaten the pulp out of everybody they've played this year. The eye test, you pass it far and away, they could be number 1 on that basis. And Ohio State, if you just want consistency, if you want sustainability, if you want a team that's making other teams look mediocre, and one that controls the game, that's Ohio State. They're legit. They should be the number 1 team in the country. They are the number 1 team in the country. And if the committee believes in that, they will be the number one team in the country, again, officially on Tuesday night. That's what I've got for you on the show. Like I told you, this is the Wisdom Tooth special. So we're going to have more coverage for you throughout the week, some more written coverage. We will be in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Tuesday and Wednesday, here Ryan Day's press conference, then doing the availability Wednesday night. So make sure you're staying tuned to the socials for that, at Saturday Cadence, at T Silver Bulletin, and at Blake Biscardi. Also the website tsilverbulletin.com for all of our written coverage. Guys, again, appreciate you for listening to the show, reading the content, engaging on social media, following on TikTok, seeing the extra behind-the-scenes content, which we had some fun stuff from the game this week. And if you want to go check that out, it's also at Blake Biscardi. Guys, again, thank you so much. We could not do this without you. We appreciate you, and we will see you on the Thursday show. In the meantime, let's figure out these CFP selection committee rankings. Let's react to them. Let's talk about them. Let's engage on socials. See you guys on the Thursday show. God bless.